It's that time of year again. Let's slip and slide our way into the biggest fantasy football league in the world. That's right, it's Scott Fish Bowl 15. And in this episode, we'll get to set the occasion with a full scoring breakdown, plus our favorite targets and fades, all this and more. It's a brand new IBT podcast coming right at you.
I've been going dummy, out of bounds, putting on a clinic. Stick around, carrots in my hardware. KC, caught him in the crosshair. Look at me, been the guy calling Mr. MVP. Keep your ass on the bench by my MPC. Earn my stripes like I fix this league. Your dog's on the turf, my dog's in the street. You can find me somewhere in between. Never a dull moment like a movie scene. About to do the ops like I did this beat. Let them keep talking, RG3. Coming to you live. This is the In Between Fantasy Football Podcast.
All right. And welcome into the In Between Fantasy Football Podcast, your place for both a refreshing and feel-good take on fantasy football and NFL gambling. It's officially the first day of summer, which means it's officially the summertime, which it wouldn't be summertime without Scott Fish Bowl. We'll certainly chat all about it in this episode as we break down the scoring, plus our favorite targets and fades. I'm your host, Seth Woolcock. I felt old a lot lately, guys. Buying a house, brother getting married, siblings, cousins hitting some milestone ages as well. And perhaps nothing has made me feel older than realizing that this is my sixth Scott Fish Bowl appearance. So time flies when you're having fun, baby. And someone who never ages is the timeless big business light ranch and son of a gun, my co-host. He's Eric Romoff. Eric, how are you doing tonight? Are you prepared for yet another fishy-filled summer stretch?
Man, as we get into the throes of Scott Fish Bowl season, it is one of those milestones, those mile markers that solidifies the fact that it is summertime, right?
Yeah.
It is summertime, and that I am 28 minutes removed from the pool before this podcast. It is summertime that we're out here talking about Scott Fish Bowl scoring and talking about some of our favorite targets. It's summertime that we are counting down the days before we fill up all of these draft night out seats. I love the summer vibes.
Yeah, man, it hits you quick and it's here and it's gone before you know it. So I'm going to soak in every bit of it this summer. Also back in the boat today is a man whose grandparents were allegedly on the Mayflower. That's how deep this guy's roots run in the state of Massachusetts. He's Boston's boy, Steve Lawson. Steve, I hope you've got your snorkel ready because we're diving in head first to maybe the funkiest scoring format I've ever seen, man.
Yeah, Scott Fish always brings the heat when it comes to the scoring. He always makes it fun, always makes it interesting. I'm always learning new things about myself on this show. Every time Seth introduces me, I'm like, oh, all right, yeah, no, that's something new that I didn't know about me, that my grandparents were Mayflower bound. All right, I'll take it. But I am super excited for Scott Fish Bowl. It really is the biggest party of the summer. I don't care what anyone else says. It's us and 3,000 other fantasy football players just about kicking it, trying to become the next champion. And like, what's better? Nothing.
Well, and also there's the fact that there are hundreds of thousands of dollars raised from Fantasy Cares. That is the foundation, the charity that is behind all this. Scott Fish and the gang do an amazing job with that, making sure that kids do not go toyless each and every Christmas. Eric, I know you run a charity league. Steve, I know you run a charity league as well. So just a great thing overall, and the biggest and one that has certainly set precedent in this fantasy football community, Eric.
Yeah, I mean they're definitely the guiding light for that regard, right? You know, Scott really is a pioneer in terms of his willingness and his advocacy for, if you're going to build a platform, you might as well do some good with it, right?
Yeah.
And now, much like you, I'm heading into year number 6 as a Scott Fish Bowl participant. We're heading into year number 6 on the Pros with Joe's side, right? And it's amazing to see how much people can coalesce around the idea of we're playing this silly game for fun, and what would make it even more fun is if we pinch off $5 or $10 out of our buy-ins and do something good with it. So I think that he's just done a really phenomenal job of kind of propagating that spirit of altruism across the space.
Yeah, for those of you who have not met Scott Fish, not only has this guy done everything that he's done with Fantasy Cares also the original founder of Superflex as well. And at the same time, he is somebody, or excuse me, Devi. I said Superflex, but Devi
I didn't
formats
realize
as
that.
well.
Breaking
Yeah,
news.
yeah, another scratch in the resume, but also can down some absolute beers. He's made an appearance or two at draft night out, usually there to put a few back and put them back quickly. So we appreciate you, Scott. As noted tonight on the program, front and center, SFB 15 scoring breakdown, targets and fades. Also, a quick Would You Rather SFB edition. And as always, before we get going, shout out to the IBT family who's tuning in live with us. We greatly appreciate it. Please like this video if you enjoy this type of content. Also, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Come be a part of our story as we continue to grow this. We appreciate it. And be sure to check out the website for some fantastic written content. We just had another movie review come out earlier today as well. We got some college football betting odds coming up tomorrow. So the site is busy. We're ready to go. U.S. Open just happened over the weekend. So big weekend for the boys, Connor and Bo on the 19th hole side of things. And if you're on the website, make sure you're checking out Draft Night Out. That's our live fantasy football draft at the Fantasy Football Expo in Canton, Ohio this August. If you want to come draft with us and 200 of our closest fantasy football friends, this is where you're going to want to be, guys. We're going to have a shot wheel spinning. Songs will be sung. I can promise you that. And giveaways going off. We'll have a little bit of everything for everyone. And the link to that is in the episode description. And Eric just booked the accommodations for the team here this past week. And there is a basketball court at the house this year. So be prepared to get a little alley-oop action from your boy Seth.
Dang, I'm going to be putting the IBT fam on posters all Expo weekend long. I love it.
Man, yeah, I got to get out there. I got to find a way.
Steve, I've told you now that you love your cousin. You sent him a great wedding gift. He will not miss you. He will not miss you. We'll miss you more than he will.
I don't think they would. I really don't think they'll miss me. I'm not in the wedding. I'm not officiating the wedding.
Are you a dancer on the dance floor?
Well, my people are historically quite good at moving and grooving on the dance floor. So yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then they might miss you. They might miss you boot scooting and boogieing, but we'll need you out at karaoke, so you'll fill a hole. Don't you worry. We appreciate it. All right, guys, let's go ahead. Let's jump into a little front and center and start breaking down Scott Fishbowl 15 scoring.
Sometimes taking that first step out the door is the hardest thing to do. Give it a chance, you'll be begging for more. Save the spot just for you. We're all somewhere in between. How about you come to the place we can have some fun? Ain't gotta worry about knowing not what it means. Come and give me another, cause the night is young. At least I so thought.
This just in. Breaking news. Front and center.
Perhaps the best thing about Scott Fish and the Scott Fishbowl is you always are on your toes with this scoring, man. I took the one slot this year because I was like, hey, I don't want to mess around. I just want Josh Allen. I want the best quarterback. Well, now quarterbacks might not be as valuable. Let's break down the scoring this tournament season, boys, starting with the scoring basics. 6 points for all touchdowns, 2 points for all 2-point conversions, 1 point for every 25 yards of passing, 1 point for every 10 yards of rushing or receiving, 1 point for first down. So pretty much like your basic scoring league, except you're getting that bonus per first down, rushing and receiving, and it's also a 6 point for all touchdowns. You know, those passing touchdowns will be 6 instead of 4. So kind of your basic stuff there. The new wrinkle this year, gentlemen, is volume is king. We've had this 0.5 points per carry around for a little while. I think at least since 2023. I remember targeting running backs pretty heavily that season. And also, you're getting 1 point per target on MFL, 1 point per reception on MFL. We've never got a per target point in the past Scott Fishbowls that I've at least been a part of since 10. So that's a little bit new here. But that's only on MFL. And then on Sleeper, you just get now 2.5 points per reception on Sleeper. So Eric, volume truly is king. It feels like receiving running backs and wide receivers who are touching the ball a ton have a major advantage like we've never seen before.
Yeah, to say the least, right? Especially, we talk about some of the things that have been added in, but you also talk about some of the things that have been stripped out, right? There was a whole gambit of punt and kick return scoring last year that is not
Yes.
part of the picture this year, and I think it provides us a much cleaner look at those heavy volume assets, be they running back or be they wide receiver, really getting vaulted up the board. You haven't gotten there quite yet, but the lineup construction where you are not required to start a quarterback, truly positionless football here. I think we're going to see a lot of those top tier running backs and wide receivers going off the board before some of the top notch quarterbacks. It's so fun to see what they draft up in the lab, and it makes every year unique unto itself.
Well, and quarterbacks really used to be what made or break your Scott Fishbowl season, right?
Mhm.
Especially back in the day, early in Scott Fishbowl 10, a little bit in 11, we had a very negative driven point system. If you threw incompletions, if you threw interceptions, if you took sacks, that is no longer a thing. That's been out there for a while, but now there are really no negatives across the board for quarterbacks. So they're nerfed really, really hard. It kind of changes this whole thing, flips it all on its head. I mean, we used to have a lot of drafts that, hey, you got 16 quarterbacks coming off the board, likely in the top 24 picks, potentially even more. That's going to change. Now we're still getting the extra 1 point per reception for tight end. But that means on sleeper, you're pulling in, Steve, 3.5 points per reception on sleeper. So if you have one of these volume tight ends, like a Trey McBride or Brock Bowers, they seem to be worth their weight in this format, as opposed to, other ones where they would not be as heavily valued.
Yeah, no, this does feel like the year of the tight end for Scott Fishbowl. It feels like that is the most valuable position overall, especially with the 1 point per first down. So you think a tight end is usually a chain mover, and the number one knock on tight ends is like the lack of touchdowns, right? But if you have a guy that consistently moves the chains and they're a tight end, that's 4.5 points most of the time that they touch the football.
Not even counting their yardage. Yeah.
Right. Like that's just baseline.
Yeah.
Like that's huge. That's huge. So I think there's a lot of scoring going on. I think that's the thing to focus in on this year on Scott Fish. It might be the tight end position.
Yeah, I've tried bully tight end in the past, and a lot of times I'm going for these mid-range tight ends, and I've gotten burned by it in the past. So for me, I'm still probably going to be deploying a similar, hey, if I can't get Trey McBride or Brock Bowers at a reasonable price, I'm probably going to still continue to fade it, just because I don't think I'm going to be paying up, early mid third round for a George Kittle. Or something like that where he might fall. We'll see what happens. I'll probably end up with a little Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland action, because that's been Seth Wilcock football here in 2025. Final scoring here. There is some IDP scoring, really only applying to Travis Hunter potentially. 2 points per tackle. You're also going to get a point for a tackle per loss, pass defended, assisted tackle. That's all a point. Fumble recovery, you're getting a little bonus there. Interception, you're getting 6 points. So could be big here for potentially Travis Hunter. We'll touch on that later in the program. Starting lineup this season as well: 11 starters, 11 bench. 0 to 2 players can go in that super flex position: a QB, a running back, a wide receiver, and a tight end. And then you have 0 to 9. You got to be filling up 9 flexes here: running back, wide receiver, and tight end. So definitely put some emphasis back on the position players this season, which is fun to have. Eric, anything else that I maybe missed for you that you're taking into account here with the Scott Fishbowl 15 scoring? You did mention that kind of took out some of that fun last year with the return yards going away. Anything else that you kind of can bring to the attention that's changing up your strategy this season?
Not in a meaningful way, right? One of the things that's been a through line with a lot of these most recent iterations is that volume goes such a long way, right? So putting a premium on the players that have a stranglehold on the work out of the backfield or a stranglehold on the target share is still going to be a foundational piece. You mentioned, Travis Hunter as the primary target on the IDP scoring component. I think you'd be surprised how many guys are getting a couple of looks out there every now and again, and we're probably going to find some camp darlings that all of a sudden end up on everyone's radar because they might be running out there with both units during OTAs and what have you. So I can't believe that it is only for Travis Hunter that all of this scoring was built out for, right? There has to be other applications there.
Yeah, I mean, could you imagine if you could just roll out an IDP player in there? I don't believe that is the case, but that would be kind of sick. And yeah, maybe we see a new like a 2025 version of Julian Edelman. We've seen it before,
Yeah.
but maybe we see it again. So certainly an interesting trend to follow there. Steve, anything final for you for Scott Fishbowl 15 scoring before we get into the targets and the fades, man?
No, I think, I think it's sneaky, the IDP scoring. I think we're looking at maybe some guys on special teams that could make rosters if you want to take like a long dart throw at someone. But yeah, with a return game kind of disappeared, that IDP scoring comes in. Who knows? Some people might win a couple matchups or like a matchup or two on their quarterback throwing a pick and then knocking the guy to the ground. Like you never really know.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go ahead. Let's turn to our fades and our targets. And Eric, I'm going to throw it to you first. Who is your biggest target when it comes to the Scott Fishbowl? And who is that guy that you're not leaving, that whether you're doing the live draft this year or whether you're an online drafter this year with myself? What's the play for you? Who are you circling?
There's a couple guys that I am circling. First and foremost, I love how this format plays out for Jauan Jennings, the wide receiver for the San Francisco 49ers, a guy that quietly gets a lot of looks in this offense and actually gets a fair amount of first down conversion. So you get some of those bonuses, but more so than anything else, a player that is just broadly overlooked in the fantasy space and ADP as we head deeper into the summer. You can get him in round 10, round 11 in some places. And he could very well finish as a rock solid wide receiver 2 or higher in this offense. I think what is dragging his draft stock down a bit is the uncertainty around the use of Ricky Pearsall, the uncertainty around the availability of Brandon Ayuk, right? San Francisco is an offense that runs a ton of 2 receiver sets. So it's really just a matter of determining who those 2 receivers are. I think Jennings gets to be one of those 2 to start the season with the Ayuk injury. And I think he probably holds serve there. I think he is going to plant his flag as a primary receiver in those 2 receiver sets because he is such an effective blocker. And that is huge in these Shanahan systems. So I think he'll be on the field a ton. I think he is being widely underdrafted. And he's a guy that I wouldn't be surprised if we see him pop up another 2.5, 3 rounds by the time we actually get into the early part of August.
Yeah, I heard the boys over on FP earlier today saying like whether it's Jennings or whether it's Pearsall, just draft them both. Draft one of them. Don't leave a draft without one of them because I mean, there's legit a world where Jauan Jennings is going for over 1,100 yards. I mean, in his time last year, when the breakout occurred, I know a ton of this happened in a couple huge games, but 975 yards last year, 77 receptions, 6 touchdowns. And now there is no Deebo Samuel who's taken up, hogging all these inefficient touches. We don't know the, certainty of Christian McCaffrey's health down the stretch. So I really like this as well. And, that injury to Brandon Ayuk, that was a nasty one. That was a bad ACL plus. So there's a chance, and that happened about midseason. So there's a chance he's not back, and it's a pup candidate, Steve. And we're looking at Jauan Jennings just having an absolute gainer of an early season run here where you could potentially, not in Scott Fishbowl, but I guess in all leagues, you could flip him, for something. And in Scott Fishbowl, you have a guy who's going up there and maybe producing close to 30 points per game in this scoring format.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember that Brandon Ayuk and the 49ers don't necessarily have the best relationship as it is right now, especially with that nasty holdout last summer. That got contentious. Jennings did sign a new deal, I believe, this offseason too. So the 49ers have committed to him as well. But there's a world where, Ayuk has to sit out the first couple games. Jennings has a good start to the season and winds up usurping Brandon Ayuk as the de facto number 1 in the offense altogether. Shanahan is a bit notorious for his temper, I guess. Burn him and you may well find yourself either shipped out of town or lower in the totem pole. Jauan Jennings is a great pick, though, where he's shown that he can do those 40-point games for you, as well as produce, other serviceable games. I think with more opportunity and a bigger role in this offense, he's going to do well. I have no concerns with Pearsall really when it comes to him, so I'm pretty confident in this pick.
Well, he's the X to start the year, right, Eric? Like, he'll be the X. Pearsall will play more of that Debo hybrid of a flanker and a slot, I think, for the most part, right? Like, that's kind of how I'm projecting it.
Yeah, that's how I see it starting the year. And once I guess if we end up with Brandon Ayuk back, which I think we will at some point, it's gonna be a platoon between Ayuk and Pearsall for that hybrid flanker slot role, right? I feel like if we're talking about just the snap share overall, Jauan Jennings is going to lead the 49ers by a pretty wide margin this year.
Yeah, great call out there, man. Appreciate that one. For me, I've been high on Tony Pollard all offseason with Cam Ward coming in to run a professional style offense. Pollard's coming off a career high 260 carries. That's 16.3 attempts per game. And he saw a healthy 3.6 targets per match as well. That's 301 touches. That's the 9th most among running backs. And that's not an outlier either, as he had 307 the year before in Dallas, 6th most. So while he wasn't the most efficient running back, and like I'm usually a big like YPC guy and efficiency metrics type guy, he had the 9th most weighted opportunities. It was still 15th in explosive rating. And I think in addition, like he was seeing such stacked fronts all the time. Only at 54.2% of his carries was he getting a light front. That's 37th among all running backs. I think Cam Ward, a new group of playmakers on the outside, Calvin Ridley, another year in this system, should help air things out a little bit, open some breathing room and some daylight for Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard, 47th highest scoring player, RB21 last year in SFB 15 scoring, 28.3 points per game, almost 30 points per game. That's the same as Bucky Irving. That's more than stud wide receivers, A.J. Brown, Mike Evans, and dare I say, even Brian Thomas Jr. This is what this format is doing. Tony Pollard is a guy who's going to be a top 50 player in this format, yet he's going off the board at RB 30, 83 overall. So I'm not leaving drafts without Pollard here, Steve.
That's fine. You can have all the Tony Pollard you want, in my opinion. Here's the issue with Tony Pollard. He's not the best running back on his own team. That is the...
I don't care. They don't know that. They don't think
I
that.
think they do know that, and I think we're going to see it this season a little bit more with Tajay Spears coming through.
I'm the biggest Spears guy, but I think Pollard's better. I think we can all say that. Pollard's more consistent.
No, we can't. I just didn't. I just said the opposite. Tony Pollard isn't that good, and I think that last year was kind of a wash year, and they were like, we'll keep Spears healthier for whatever we got coming down the line. We saw at the end of the year, Spears looked better. It wasn't even a competition. He was more explosive. He was better in the pass game.
I mean, he got 300 touches on his body. Yeah, he's going to be a little slow at the end of the year.
Well, okay. I mean, listen, it's what have you done for me lately, right? And he wasn't efficient even early in the season. He's just not an efficient runner, and he's not a guy who can handle a workload like that. I don't think they're going to give him another one. You can keep telling me all the things you want until you're blue in the face. Tony Pollard has never, ever, ever been the kind of guy that I want to hang my season on, especially Scott Fishbowl, where I'm trying to make the playoffs desperately. And the last thing I need is Tony Pollard pulling a Houdini on me, disappearing and fumbling away my season.
Eric, 7th round pick for me for, maybe I would even flirt with him in the 6th round. And I feel like I'm getting a guy who has 30-point upside each and every week in this scoring format. Volume's king. I'm not saying Tony Pollard's a good running back. I'm saying he's going to get a workhorse role once again. Where are you at? Where do you land on Steve and I's takes where we're both very much on the opposite side of the spectrum?
I am annoyingly in the middle. I think that your point that volume is king is bang on, right? I'm closer to Steve's side of the argument that I don't think we can just pencil Tony Pollard in as the volume, the volume.
They paid him so much money, man.
In this, I mean, sure they did, right? But at a certain point, like you have to you have to make a consideration of efficacy, right? Like if him being out there is going to allow the defense to change their groupings, change the level of aggression they have towards Cam Ward, at a certain point he becomes
Mhm.
a liability, right? So I think we'll see him start the year getting a good, at least a decent representation of the volume that he saw last year. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see around the halfway point, we see him start to tail off, whether it's more share with Tajay Spears or a different back on this roster. I don't think that you can confidently lock him into a similar workload to that which he saw last year, right? You know,
And in Dallas.
everyone that's and in Dallas, and every time, whether it's here or Dallas, that someone tries to give him that 250 plus.
Yeah, it's not great.
rushing
It's not
attempt
fun to
workload,
watch. Yeah.
It doesn't
It's not-
it doesn't go well,
yeah.
right? And at a certain point, like the coaching staff is going to make a determination if they need to turn the corner or not.
Oh.
So if he plays and is the lead back for all 17 games, he is a phenomenal value. I just don't think we can take that for granted.
Man, I had a 3-unit gainer this season on like a Tony Pollard over 69.5 yards. It was against a very, very bad run defense, and he had 67 at halftime, and I didn't get it. No, like I got battle scars from this dude. I'm back with you, Tony. Let's have a season, buddy. Let's have a season.
All
Steve,
toxic relationships are like that.
Steve, I'll throw it over to you for your first target. Who do you have?
Yeah, and it's actually my favorite target maybe in the entire league in every format. It's Garrett Wilson over on the New York Jets. I am, as you know, all in on these frisky Jets this year, and everything coming out of camp is that Justin Fields looks the part, is doing everything that the Jets want him to do. But more importantly, they brought in zero competition for Garrett Wilson for targets. It's Garrett Wilson's show. And I expect Garrett Wilson to play an Amon-Ra St. Brown type of role where he's seeing 150, 160, maybe 170 or more targets. I wouldn't be shocked if he leads the league in targets this year. And in a situation where volume is king, like it is in Scott Fishbowl this year, Garrett Wilson is one of those players that, look at who he's had at quarterback, and every single year he is one of the best scoring wide receivers year over year over year with the worst quarterback situation. But more than that, people are fading him because of Justin Fields. Well, here's the thing. The last time Justin Fields was a starting quarterback for an entire season, his wide receiver 1 was the wide receiver 5 on the season in DJ Moore. And I would go so far to say that Garrett Wilson is a little bit better than DJ Moore is. So a wide receiver 1 finish is not out of the realm of possibility for Garrett Wilson this year. I am totally in on him and Justin Fields with the chemistry they had at Ohio State carrying over to New York.
Yeah. I mean, and look, they don't have much out of Breece Hall there in the passing game. They bring in the rookie tight end out of LSU, Mason Taylor. I think he'll get some looks, but I think I'm with you here, specifically in Scott Fishbowl, Steve, because Garrett Wilson's coming at a point where, I mean, he's averaging over 150 targets per season in his career. That's high volume work. He's had over 1,000 yards. That's kind of what you want for a receiver if you're going to be drafting them in Scott Fishbowl. And where he's going right now, I mean, it's a fine value, I think, as well. So I'm definitely in on Garrett Wilson right now, 39 overall. So midway through, early part of that third round or fourth round there, Eric, are you in on Garrett Wilson as well?
I am. Yeah, this is one of those points where I was upset that I didn't get to the show sheet as quickly as I could, because I would have loved to have Garrett Wilson next to my targets column. I mean, 10 out of 10, no notes. I don't think I would add anything to Steve's analysis, right? Like, just as a macro point, there are always guys that, maybe on questionable offenses, maybe on what is believed to be subpar offenses, that are all of a sudden one or maybe 2 viable target options in that offense, and they become extremely interesting from a fantasy context, right? And you look up and down this room of pass catchers for the Jets, and it's Garrett Wilson, and then maybe it's Breece Hall, right? Maybe it's Taylor, the rookie tight end, right? Like, there isn't anybody that's going to command much target volume in this offense, and those are the guys that you can build that nice volume foundation on.
All right. I got another one. You weren't impressed with the first. Maybe you'll like the second one better. Give me Alvin Kamara of the Saints. This is another insane value. Player 3 overall last season in Scott Fishbowl, 15 scoring. also was a beast in Scott 14 scoring as well. I know I had him. I took him late. He fell to me. I think somewhere right around the 5th round. This year, kind of same thing. ADP going around 40. I don't think anyone's clamoring to get their hands on someone like Alvin Kamara, but they should be. In 14 games last season, 230 carries, just about 950 yards, 6 rushing touchdowns, added another 90 targets, almost 70 receptions as well. So I think with Tyler Shuck under center, we could see maybe triple digits targets for the 4th time in Alvin Kamara's career. I also wouldn't be surprised if we see similar like 16 to 18 carries. That's what he's had most of his career, given that Kellen Moore is coming off a season where his offense led the league in rushing by a wide margin, attempts, yards, everything about it. While he's not Saquon Barkley, I think we can all say Kamara is a good player. And with Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed both coming off injuries, I think it's once again the Alvin Kamara show in New Orleans this season, and that means good things for Scott Fishbowl, 15 points. I'm all in, Eric.
Yeah, and extraordinary value. Another name that I had come to mind for me as we were going through this exercise, specifically at cost, right? Like, we see it with
biggest value.
Derrick Henry to varying extents every year. People just assume that the age is going to catch up to some of these prolific runners, and they're going to hit the cliff, and that's going to be the end of it. That's much more of like a dynasty line of thinking for redraft. You look at the guys around him. There's not going to be a whole lot of competition for him to get work out of that backfield, and he could push for a new career high in receptions this year pretty readily.
Yes.
I think there's going to be a fair amount of both of check downs, but also a fair amount of designed routes for him, and an offense that's probably going to be pretty limited. I know that there's Tyler Shuckheads out there, but like. Yeah. This is full on like tank commander status from game number 1. So they're going to get the most out of the guys that they know are familiar with the system and that can be effective enough, but they're not really going to be trying to, find their way back into games. They're not going to be trying to, install new wrinkles into their offense. It's going to be pretty predictable, and that holds value in this scoring system.
Like, Steve, obviously we're not going to get a ton of touchdowns from Alvin Kamara, I wouldn't think, this season, just because the Saints probably won't be in a ton of scoring positions, but it's just a volume play here. Do you also believe that this could be the 3rd year in a row where Kamara is one of the best value in drafts?
Yeah, because he's one of the best running backs in football, one of the best players in football. People love to look and say, oh, well, he never broke 1,000 yards rushing. It's because he does so many other things so well. His pass catching ability he's the best receiving back in the NFL. I really will stand on that. I know people will say, no, Christian McCaffrey or whoever, blah, blah, blah. No, it's Alvin Kamara. He is the guy, and he is probably my favorite running back to watch run with the ball in his hands in the league, because
he is fun to watch.
He's really fun. I've never seen this man sprint. Not for 1 second. I've never seen this man break into a sprint. Like, it's the most amazing thing.
Long strides.
He kind of like jogs. Like, you ever watch someone like cross the street when they cut you off in the car and they like do that little like jog thing across the street? That's Alvin Kamara all the time, right? He's kind of just always chugging along. He's impossible to tackle. He's impossible to tackle. He's really funny, slippery. He's younger than people think he is. I know he's like hitting that 30 mark, but like people act like he's like 35. Alvin Kamara, and he doesn't have a ton of like wear on the tires. You know what I mean? He hasn't racked up the carries that like Derrick Henry's racked up, or guys like that have racked up.
A lot of touches, but not
touches.
As many.
And as far as touchdowns go, he actually might score more than we think, because someone has to score. Like, here's the thing: as bad as the Saints are going to be, it's not like they're going to score 0 every game. And I doubt Tyler Shuck's going to be out there just chucking touchdowns all over the place. Someone's going to have to get this ball into the end zone. It's probably going to be Kamara, because Taysom Hill's gone, right? He's out. He's hurt. It's
good point. Good point.
So,
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, like there's a lot that's going right for Kamara to have a monster year, because someone has to do it. It's the NFL. They will score. It's just who's going to do it. It's probably their star running back.
Kamara is going to be probably plus 150, I bet, week 1 to score an anytime touchdown. Everyone else on the Saints will be like 3-1, 4-1.
Oh, yeah. It'll be wild.
Yeah. So I like that. I'm going to go ahead and out on a limb and just say I think Alvin Kamara is going to be the best value in Scott Fishbowl once again this season. Eric, throwing it over to you for your second value and target for Scott Fishbowl 15.
Yeah, you don't have to scroll far on the ADP to find Ken Walker, at least scroll far from Alvin Kamara. Also another running back that is sitting in that kind of mid to late 40s range. overall, and a player that I'm absolutely infatuated with in this format in particular, and just generally I'm working to walk up my exposures to as we get deeper into the offseason. Ken Walker is a freak of nature athletically. It's largely been circumstance and injury that has kept him from really reaching his true potential, but his circumstance has changed in a significant way as Clint Kubiak enters the chat, a coordinator that brings in that beautiful zone running scheme that fits Kenneth Walker's skill set to a T, but also that is going to be checking down to their running backs as frequently as anyone else in the league. That is a foundational component of this Kubiak scheme and system, as is running I formation. The New Orleans Saints ran I formation last year at the highest rate in all of the NFL. Now, as we get into OTAs and the camp season itself, we're seeing a lot of I formation from this year's Seattle Seahawks. So I think we're going to see a ton of volume, but I think more than anything else, we're going to see an offense that is going to have opposing defensive fronts kind of on skates as they're getting adjusted to this new zone look. And Ken Walker is the type of player that can find that crease and absolutely explode through it. So I'm really excited to see how he projects out both on the whole, but also specifically in this scoring format.
Yeah, he's another guy. Like I really have nothing to fight you on or add. I think you're locked on to Ken Walker here. I think the change in play calling will be really fun with Kubiak. We know that guy can run a rushing offense. And same question I'm going to ask you. I asked D-Bro yesterday on the Fantasy Pros Fantasy Football podcast. If you're investing in Kenneth Walker, here specifically in SFB 15, Eric, are you also getting Charbonnet? He's going around 123 overall ADP. Are you handcuffing Charbs there, or is it just, hey, I'm all in on Kenneth Walker. If he gets hurt, it is what it is?
Generally, I'm more the latter, right? The only exception to that rule would be a format such as this, Scott Fishbowl, where you cannot go out and make trades, right? You only have the ability to work the wire. So handcuffing your workhorse backs becomes all the more crucial. For me, there's always a class of handcuff backs every year that get steamed up a couple rounds higher than they probably should be. And usually those are cases where I'm willing to just carry forward and, make my ends meet elsewhere if I lose my frontline starter. But because that waiver wire gets so thin specifically in this format, I wouldn't be shy about, paying for Charbonnet at cost, or maybe even a little bit higher, depending on how the board breaks for me before I draft Ken Walker.
Okay, so those are our Scott Fishbowl 15 targets: Tony Pollard, Alvin Kamara, Garrett Wilson, and then Kenneth Walker and Jauan Jennings. Let's get to some fades. Steve, you got two of them. Who are you fading when it comes to the fishiest bowl? Fishiest bowl? Who are you fading here? Give me two names. Give me them both.
All right, I'm going to hurt some feelings here. First, we're going to fade Bucky Irving, the running back out of Tampa Bay, the darling of last season, and now being overdrafted. I just don't see it happening twice. I like Bucky Irving. I think he's good. I don't think he's great. And I think last year was one of those. I think if you're going to fade Tyrone Tracy, you got to fade Bucky Irving too. I think if you're going to say, oh, this guy was a flash in the pan, but this guy wasn't, when they kind of did the same thing, it's just not feasible or fair. And I think we undervalue Rachaad White a lot. And again, I know that Liam Cohen left. The offensive coordinator is no longer there. This is still Todd Bowles' team, but I don't think Todd Bowles has as much say in the offense as his coordinators do. I think he really turns that over to them. And at some point, I know we saw it when Canales left, and then we got Liam Cohen, and now we're down another level of the totem pole. It's not going to be the same thing, because what we are missing is that some of these guys just have a feel for the game. Their finger is on the pulse of the game in a way that makes them offensive geniuses, that gets them to that head coaching position. And we're banking on the Buccaneers overperforming. Again, their offense was light years better than we thought it would be last year. It was so much better than we thought it would be last year.
Awesome.
That it was
so good.
It was an absolute albatross of a season. You can't predict that to happen twice. I just don't see it happening. I think Baker Mayfield's going to come back down to earth. I think Bucky Irving will fall and crash and burn with him. And everyone who drafts him at this position, which is a really high draft pick for a guy who is slow and a bit undersized and just doesn't really have the athletic scores to go along with the idea of him being this like league-winning running back, I just don't see it. And I think Rachaad White is still the better passing down guy. I don't see Bucky Irving returning value well.
Well, my thing here in Scott Fishbowl, he's going 24 overall. So he's going it's not even the turn because there's a third round reversal, but you're getting him at the end of the second round. And the issue is that Bucky Irving, like I just like told everyone that he was right, behind Tony Pollard in points per game in Scott Fishbowl scoring last year. So Bucky Irving, because he isn't a true volume back, like it was great, 12 point, but it was only 12.2 rushing attempts per game. Maybe that goes up a little bit because they know he's the guy, from the jump, at least on early downs. But at the same time, he is going to get a boatload of targets. I think White will still get his fair share as well. And White's going to be a great value going back, 130 plus in Scott Fishbowl this year, as far as the ADP from our friends at Going for Two is disclosing with us. But so I do see some boom to Bucky's game, but for what you're paying and, the 50 or so less carries you're getting from him and Pollard and the 4+ rounds you have to pay earlier to get Bucky Irving, I'm with you. I am fading Bucky Irving in Scott Fishbowl. I still think he's a really talented back, and I think I am with you that the offense will take a step back more than likely. So it's a very interesting prospect overall, but I'm definitely with you. I am fading him in this format. Who's your other fade here, Steve?
Yeah, I'll keep this one a bit briefer. It's Sam LaPorta, the tight end out of Detroit. And I know I just got through saying earlier on the show that like tight ends are key. Tight ends are key. This tight end is not key. Please don't draft Sam LaPorta at his ADP. It's way too high. Yes, he had a great rookie season, but Ben Johnson is gone. There's not that creative way to get him touches. Last season, he couldn't get touches unless they were like really manufactured. I'm kind of out on Sam LaPorta. I'd go a lot of different ways at tight end before I went him. Evan Ingram is a much better value pick at the tight end position that I'd much prefer over Sam LaPorta, and you can get him much later.
Ingram's going to get volume.
Yeah, Ingram's going to get volume. LaPorta is certainly not going to get volume. Definitely not going to get volume.
Yeah, I mean, he regressed by, over 40 targets last season. I do agree with you. It felt like he had to get schemed up a lot, some short slants.
Trick plays.
When we would see him involved. And when Jared Goff was kind of coming back to the middle of the field. So I'm out on LaPorta at his ADP too. It's just too expensive. 41 overall for a non-volume based tight end for as much as I'd like. Again, I'll just wait for a rookie later on. Eric, are you quickly in line with both of these fades of Bucky and Sam?
I am in line with them. I'm probably fading Bucky more than I am LaPorta, just given the price tag and how much of a premium there is applied to the tight end position, right? If we are wrong in our fade and things become even just a fraction shadow of what we saw a few years ago, it can be monumental for your prospects in this type of format.
Even if we went back to like 100 targets, would be awesome.
Yeah, not saying that I think that's the most likely outcome, but it's on the range, and that type of upside matters in 3,500 person.
True,
tournaments.
That's a good point. Yeah. All right. Well, let's go to your fade here, Eric. You got the man of the hour, the man of Scott Fishbowl, the one everyone's going to want to draft here. It's Travis Hunter. Why are you fading the wide receiver and cornerback out of Jacksonville?
Because I ain't no sucker. I know a trap when I see one. And they go and they build this entire scoring device to largely prop up one player in particular. Obviously, he stands to benefit from this scoring system more than anybody else in the league. This is probably the scoring system that benefits him the most. It makes him the most viable. But because of that, we've seen the market overcorrect, and he is now being way overdrafted, right? Think back to last year, where we were going out of our way and bending over backwards to draft Rashid Shaheed and Marvin Mims and all of the kick returners.
Shaheed didn't even kick return, right? That was like the cruel joke.
Kick return, right? Remember Remember when Kyron Williams was a kick returner and the only place where his ADP didn't plummet was on Scott Fishbowl draft boards, right? It's more so that like very clearly the scoring is pointing you to this one player in particular. And so Travis Hunter is now being way overdrafted. Could he be a solid option? Probably, right? Is he, justified to be picked as, somewhere in the second or third round? Not in my book.
I'm mixed because I have generally been out on Travis Hunter around his ECR, which has been 36 through 45, anywhere where you cut that up. He's 34 right now, which like if he fell to me at that 3-4 turn, I'd really have to think about it, dude, because I really do think some of those points could be valuable. I mean, I don't play a ton of IDP, but I know cornerbacks traditionally aren't the ones you want to target. You want someone who's going to get you tackles, like a linebacker or a safety perhaps as well, or someone who's going to get you sacks. So cornerback's definitely the lowest on the totem pole, I would say, for IDP, but it would be fun. Like, it would be fun, right? Like, you have to kind of admit that it would be a good time.
Yeah, probably, right? We don't know how much he's going to play on either side. Right?
Yeah,
and so
it's risky. It's risky
to go out and burn, early round draft capital where you don't have a clear picture of how.
I don't think he'll make it to 34 in the real thing, right? I think people like to be that guy.
Yeah.
People like or gal. People like being that person.
He could really see that. Like, I wouldn't be shocked to see him go in the first round in a lot of these drafts.
Same.
There are people the beers get flowing down there at those live drafts, and
people start doing like none of us would be shocked if he went the 101 because there's an entire scoring column dedicated to him.
I mean, yeah, I've seen Matt Barkley go in the first round. Everyone remembers that a couple years ago. Last year we also had, oh man, I can't remember this Jib's name. He was great Jim. And he accidentally took not Justin Jefferson, a different Jay Jefferson. And they luckily let him switch it. But last fade for me here, quickly, it is Marvin Harrison Jr. Look, I'm still very much in on Marvin Harrison Jr. potentially having a post-hype breakout sophomore season. However, he's very much a fade for me at his current price in Scott Fishbowl 15 ADP, ADP of 38 overall. That's despite finishing as player 133 overall in Scott Fishbowl 15 scoring last year, 19.2 points per game, nearly 100 spots lower than where he's going right now. In the same range of some absolute studs. Listen to these names, boys. Jake Ferguson, Jerome Ford, Jalen Warren. These are guys who were all right in that same mix, points per game last year in SFB 15. And while I like Marvin Harrison, the prospect still, and I'm still in on the talent, the fact that OC Drew Petzig, he's back calling plays for Marv, mostly used him as a downfield weapon last year, 13.4 ADOT, makes no sense. To me, like, I just don't think I can get invested in a guy who had 740 of his 885 receiving yards come before the catch, meaning he's not being used in situations where he can get yards after the catch. That's what a volume wide receiver is. Kyler Murray told us it's not his job to get Marv the ball either. So we're drafting Marv more than a round above high volume wide receivers. Steve, you threw out Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson, 12 spots lower than Marvin Harrison. Terry McLaurin, like 15 or 16. Just off base, pure projection. They're going to change how they use them. I'm not taking that risk when I can get guys like Garrett and Terry later.
Yeah, no, you shouldn't. Now, I know I've been the lowest on Marvin Harrison Jr. on this show, right? Like, and that's no secret. Look back at any of our shows. I've been called every name under the sun for it. Marvin Harrison Jr. is not used as a volume wide receiver because he's not good at separating. That's why we're not seeing the yards after catch production, because he has no separation. Cornerbacks are on him the entire time. Most of his production comes when a play breaks down.
Well, he's getting doubled. He's not really getting doubled. He's just not that good at route running, and it's not a bad thing to be a downfield threat. It's just everyone thought he was walking out and being his dad. That's the problem, is that we hear the name Marvin Harrison and we're like, this is going to be a route running technician. He's not. His dad was. He's not. He's a downfield, big-bodied receiver, and that's what we have to accept that Marvin Harrison Jr. is. Here's the issue. You always make it personal about his route running when
it's not personal. That's not a personal attack on him.
At the end of the day, to me, it's not about the player. It's about the price, and the price is too high here in Scott Fishbowl 15 scoring. That is where I'll leave it there. But let's go ahead. Let's round out the show with Would You Rather SFB 15 edition.
Risky business or that fair say. Are you that hard on the rocks? We're chilling with a cold one. Even bold one or hold back. Would you rather? This ain't no simple matter.
All right. Would you rather Scott Fishbowl 15 edition? One of the best things about SFB every single season is the live drafts that were introduced post-COVID. And, you know, guys, I've got to attend a couple out in Philly a few years ago, was down in DC last year. This year, back here on the homestead, we're moving right around that weekend, so won't be able to make the trip, but hoping to get to potentially Pittsburgh next year. So always a great time at the live drafts. Eric, I know you've been to a couple as well. And this year we got a couple new locations. So question is, which new SFB 15 live draft would you rather attend? Australia, Omaha, Nebraska, Baltimore, or Phoenix? Steve, give it to me, brother. Where are you going for your new edition of Scott Fishbowl 15?
Oh man, this is a hard one because I don't like to fly. I'm afraid of flying, so I definitely wouldn't go to Australia. I got no business out in Nebraska, so I'm gonna pass on the Heartland. I'll take Phoenix. I think Phoenix, Arizona could be cool. It's a beautiful state. You can make a trip to the Grand Canyon, see some of the beautiful desert. Yeah, I think Phoenix, Arizona is the place I'd want to go. Baltimore's cool, I guess. I'm not a huge Baltimore, Maryland fan. But they do have the Waffle House, so that's a huge win in my book. But I'll give Phoenix the slight edge.
What about you, Eric?
I feel like it's pretty clearly Australia for me. I mean, yeah, the flight sounds like a real dog, but once you get out there, absolutely gorgeous place to explore. Kind of like Steve, you can miss me with the breadbasket of the country. I already live in the middle of a desert, so I don't need to go to another desert to draft a team. And Baltimore's dope. They're definitely the silver medal on the podium here. But given the option, I've been to Baltimore plenty, and I ain't been anywhere near Australia yet.
Wow,
That 12-hour flight would kill me.
Is it 12? I thought isn't it like 24?
It's 12 hours from California. From California,
Okay.
You were on a plane for
Jeez.
12 hours straight, flying over the ocean. No thank you.
Yeah.
Dude, that flight path is wild too. You basically like go straight south along the South American Pacific coastline and then just kind of cut over. It's crazy.
Listen, I love Scott Fishbowl. I love this community. That is a ways for a draft. That is a hike. I would go to England. I'd like to do a draft in England one day.
London's sick. I'll tell you.
Yeah,
London's amazing.
Yeah. But I can make that. I can go over the Atlantic. I don't think I can get, jump, balls deep in the Pacific just quite yet. For me, boys, and I think it's very ignorant, the disrespect that Omaha, Nebraska has gotten shown on this particular program tonight. Not only could you potentially get out to Omaha, catch potentially a World Series college baseball game that's happening right now out there. That would be awesome. That sounds like a whole lot of fun. Oh, also, you can go right up north to Lincoln. Go check out the Nebraska campus. You can go check out Matt Roll and the boys.
I am not trusting some sushi chef from Omaha for anything. So I ain't
buying sushi. Who's buying sushi in Omaha, Nebraska? I'm going to have some old-fashioned barbecue, baby.
In
barbecue.
Nebraska?
Yeah, that's probably what.
He doesn't have barbecue. What are we talking about?
They have corn on the cob.
Dude, Nebraska has barbecue for sure.
Nebraska's number one export is corn and white people. It is white bread.
It's all right. Listen, they also got some dirt tracks out there I've been looking to see. So,
oh my God. See, it always comes out. His hillbilly comes out every time. It always rears its ugly head.
Listen, if someone out there is going to the Omaha draft, let me know. maybe I can get some in. Maybe I can get some on the books for next year, because the disrespect being shown by these gentlemen is just unreal. I think there's a lot happening out there. I'm ready for it. Give me a little Omaha, baby. Last question of the night here, guys. Which handcuff for Scott Fishbowl 15 would you rather roster this season? We have Tyler Algier of the Atlanta Falcons, Ray Davis of the Bills, Jackson Dart of the Giants, or Noah Gray of the Kansas City Chiefs. So a bunch of different positions here. Let's put them in the bag. Which handcuff would you rather target in Scott Fishbowl 15? Eric, you going with the quarterback, one of the running backs, or the tight end in this tricky scoring format for 2025?
Of the list of handcuffs, I will choose the one that is not a handcuff. Jackson Dart, the presumed and in my mind rightful starter for your New York Giants. I don't think that he's in handcuff territory whatsoever. There's a non-zero chance that he ends up starting the year as the starting signal caller for the G-Man. And in the event that he doesn't, I don't think it's going to be very long before we see him under center. So I will happily select Jackson Dart of this lot.
Listen, I've had to roll with Noah Gray the last few years here as a spot starter in Scott Fishbowl. And now that we're getting even a little bit more of a sweetener out there as well for the volume merchants. Not that Noah Gray's a volume merchant, but this is a guy who, at least previously, I don't know if it'll be the same with Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice. Now we also have a young buck and Jalen Royals coming in as well. I don't know if he'll get the same volume, but if he can still get, 3 to 5 targets per game, roll in 3 or 4 of those for 30, 35 yards, maybe a touchdown every 4th game, I might be in on Noah Gray here. Am I crazy, Steve?
Yeah, you are. I mean, I don't want to be mean.
You want to sit on Jackson Dart in
it's not sitting on him. He's clearly the best quarterback there.
I think
what we need to realize is that he is going to play, because this coaching staff has no choice but to play him and show that they can develop him. They are coaching for their jobs, and there is nothing that will stop them from being like, you know what, look at the leash that we should get because Jackson Dart's developing. We're making progress with him. Do you want to stunt your new quarterback's growth? And a starting quarterback in Scott Fishbowl is still more valuable than every other position just about. And Jackson Dart is going to be he's a mobile quarterback. I love my mobile quarterback. So he's just going to rack up the points. He has Malik Neighbors. He has Tyrone Tracy. He's got Slayton. He's got Robinson. There's
Cameron Scadaboo, yeah.
I don't count him. There's plenty of weapons on this offense for him to use and put up points with. So I am not going to bypass him because of Russell Wilson, like the corpse of Russell Wilson. I'm not worried about it.
In the past, I've been all in on this type of quarterback. I drafted like Justin Herbert, 17th round of Scott Fishbowl, just to think, hey, maybe he'll get the chance. Wasn't expecting, Tyrod Taylor to take a a puncture to the lung for it to make it happen so
crazy.
quickly. I just think that it might be a longer runway for Russell Wilson than potentially we're thinking, particularly if he's winning. So I just don't know in this format, in this iteration of Scott Fishbowl, where quarterback's a little less valuable. I would rather potentially have someone like a tight end that I can maybe count on to get me a little bit of volume in a spot start. But more than anyone, probably, thinking about it, Tyler Algier, if you're drafting Bijan Robinson at the 101, you have to draft Algier. You have to get him around early, at least, too, to make sure that you're getting him. So I think Algier is probably the best handcuff, in my opinion, in this slot for Scott Fishbowl. But even Ray Davis right now, Eric, to round it out, he's someone that, he's a straight lottery ticket right now, because there is the James Cook contract negotiations. He could sign and be happy. He could take no deal, and he's had to sign, show up anyways to avoid getting fined, because he can't afford that fine right now as a day 2 draft pick. But either way, Ray Davis potentially a nice lottery ticket, while Algier is just, he's your steady backup pretty much all season long.
Yeah, I would actually, if we're going to exclude this list down to just handcuffs or kind of flyer options, I would actually have Ray Davis number 2. He showed me some interesting things on tape last year, and kind of like you were talking about with the James Cook contract situation, there's certainly an outcome where he gets more work, on the front end because they believe that they don't have a long-term asset in James Cook, or, if nothing else, we see him work his way and whittle his way into a bigger workload as the season goes on. So I would have Ray Davis as my second choice here, followed by Algier, and then your guy, Mr. Gray, as the last option. I don't know where you're getting this volume concept from,
dude.
Unless you're playing like in a points per snap kind of scoring wrinkle, the volume isn't there for Noah Gray. He's on the field a ton. He doesn't get a lot of looks.
So you're telling me I'm the only sicko in the lot here who was betting like the Noah Gray over 2 receptions sometimes in my parlays last year?
No, but 2 receptions isn't volume. What are we talking about?
It's volume for tight ends who like you're scared.
Seth's problem is that he has the volume. Like he's never really learned how to work the volume on his own TV. It's because he's like an old man. He looks at it. He's like, how does this work? Volume.
All right, Steve, real quick, rank these guys in order. For me, I would go Algier, Ray Davis, Noah Gray, Jackson Dart.
I would go Dart, Algier, Davis, Gray.
Okay. Awesome. Well, guys, it's been so much fun. Thank you to everyone who's rode along with us so far tonight. That is going to do it for us on the In Between Fantasy Football podcast. If you've enjoyed this type of content, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you're new. We've got NFL and fantasy football betting. We've got college football betting, NASCAR betting, PGA betting, entertainment betting, all to help you cash more and enjoy the ride along the way. Also, be sure to check out inbetweenmedia.com for some written content. We've also got upcoming live event tickets there, including Draft Night Out this summer in Canton, Ohio at the Fantasy Football Expo. For Eric Romoff and Steve the Man, Boston's Boy Lawson, I'm Seth Wilcock. Thanks for watching. Keep it in between till next time, y'all.